One day, two non-athletes woke up and said, "Hey, let's do a sports podcast." These courageous warriors faced great obstacles such as mediocre microphones, Skip Bayless, and Matt Hendrickson. This is The Unathletic. Welcome to this edition of The Unathletic, a sports podcast. I'm your host, Ben Friedel, and alongside me, as always, Nate Wiggins. What's going on, Nate? How you doing?
I am great. I am very happy. I had an awesome weekend. Tremendous.
Yeah, and I know you're especially stoked because NCAA basketball is about to come into full swing now with March Madness, and you were telling me that is this is absolutely your favorite time of the year.
Yeah. Thursday through Saturday of March Madness are, in my opinion, the 4 best days in sports. I cannot wait, and let's get it going.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be talking about all of that on this edition of The Unathletic. But before we do so, I think it's important to reaffirm what this show is about. So we just want to talk about the sports and stories that we are most passionate about here on The Unathletic. And sometimes this deviates away from sort of the vicious cycle of major sports media networks. And so today, unfortunately, we're not deviating too far because we're talking about NCAA March Madness. However, we will be talking some soccer later in the show. And we're also going to be talking about some golf and tennis. So that I think is a little bit different in terms of changing it up this week. And so, anything else, Nate? I think we're good to go.
Yeah, let's get going.
Yeah, all right. So NCAA March Madness is about to start, everyone, and I know that this is arguably the biggest sporting event of the entire year in terms because I think it grosses in terms of monetary value more than the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like the entire March Madness tournament. So a lot of money's flown through this, and pretty crazy. So Selection Sunday was yesterday, Nate. You filled out your bracket. I still have yet to fill out my bracket, but I got probably 5 text messages this morning saying
join the bracket group.
Join the bracket group.
The bracket group's name is Super Weenie Hut General. For those of you that don't know, that's a SpongeBob reference, and so I wanted to name it Weenie Hut Jr. That was taken. So was Weenie Hut Jr. So was Weenie Hut General. So I had to settle for Super Weenie Hut General.
Wow! You really hit all of them. Yes. You know. And what that tells me is that there's a lot of SpongeBob loving college basketball fans out there,
and a lot of people who have too much time on their hands, me included.
Yep, definitely people with way too much time on their hands. But Nate, I thought that we could, when we were prepping, we thought we could devote an entire segment to sort of your diagnosis as to the upcoming tournament ahead, and we're going to call this Nate's Bracketology. So you're going to break down the teams that you're picking to go all the way, and you're going to let our listeners know why you think these certain teams are going to do better than others. So let's get started. So I want to ask you first, were there any teams that surprised you?
Yeah. I was really surprised to see Arizona State and Oklahoma get in, and I was mostly surprised to see Oklahoma get in comfortably as a 10 seed. I thought if they were to get in, they'd be one of the last 4 in, be an 11 seed, and have to go to Dayton to play in one of the playing games. But no, they were a 10 seed. They were comfortably in. Arizona State is in as an 11 seed. And what I think this shows the value of non-conference wins. Arizona State won at Kansas. Arizona State beat Xavier. Oklahoma State beat Wichita State in the non-conference. And what this shows is that the committee values non-conference wins as much as conference wins. And there were some teams that had a very good conference play, not so great non-conference, and they didn't get in. So I think that this shows that the committee really values non-conference wins. That's not a statement that I necessarily agree with. I think there should be more weight on conference play, but I'm not on the selection committee. The committee decides who gets in, and these are the teams that they put in.
Yeah, and I saw on social media that it was especially interesting that Oklahoma made the tournament without winning a road game in 2018.
They did not win a road game in 2018.
And Oklahoma State missed the tournament.
Yeah, and Oklahoma State beat Oklahoma twice. They beat them in Stillwater at Oklahoma State, and they beat them in the conference tournament. So that's why I thought they would get in, but I thought they would be an 11 seed, have to play in one of the first 4. But nope, they were comfortably in, while Oklahoma State, who beat Oklahoma twice, is sitting at home. But you're going to be playing in the NIT, actually, I should say.
Definitely, and I think that has to do with the Trae Young effect, right? The NCAA may want to just see big-name Trae Young in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, you could make the argument that has that may hold some weight. And I mean, that's more speculation. I'm not going to come out and cry conspiracy theory here, but I can see that argument. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you mentioned ASU, and we were talking about it on our way up the hill to do the show today that USD, in fact, put the pressure.
They put the pressure on them in a preseason exhibition game that was raised money for Puerto Rico after the hurricane. And so, yeah, USD almost beat them in that preseason game. So that really trained ASU, and that's really the reason that they're in the tournament is because, USD put the pressure on them. ASU was able to get better and learn from that experience.
And, of course, that's why we, as USD, are playing in our postseason tournament of our own that I'm sure all the listeners are going to be watching at home.
Yes, the CIT, the College Insider Tournament.
It's like the NIT of the NIT.
Yes. Remember how we were talking about the U.S. creating their own mini World Cup for teams that didn't qualify for the World Cup? So yeah, this is even below that. This is like the teams that couldn't even get into the U.S.'s potential NIT World Cup, creating their own World Cup. But I mean, that being said, I'm happy to be playing in a postseason tournament. Happy that the basketball season gets to continue.
And the game is tonight.
Yes, at 7:00, and it's actually going to be on national TV on CBS Sports Network. Yeah.
Wow, very very nice. And so that'll be fun to watch. But kind of getting back to the bracket per se. You mentioned that Oklahoma State was a really big snub for you. Were there any other schools that didn't make the tournament that really caught your eye?
Yeah, USC, who finished second in the Pac-12, lost in the Pac-12 tournament championship game to Arizona. They did not get in, and neither did St. Mary's, who finished second in the West Coast Conference, lost in the semifinals of the West Coast Conference tournament. They didn't get in, and I guess this shows kind of what I was saying earlier, the value of non-conference scheduling. St. Mary's and USC did not have strong non-conference wins that some of these other teams that got in had, particularly St. Mary's. And I was very surprised to see that when looking at St. Mary's schedule after the fact, seeing that they didn't have any marquee non-conference games because they've been in this situation before where they didn't win the conference tournament and they ended up missing the NCAA tournament because they did not have a strong non-conference. And so I think what Randy Bennett, the coach at St. Mary's, needs to do is he needs to take this as a learning experience and say, hey, we need to schedule better teams in the non-conference. And the same thing with USC. We need to schedule better teams in the non-conference because what the committee has shown us is that they value non-conference wins as much as they value conference wins. Maybe not as much, but non-conference wins are more valued than maybe we have previously thought.
Yeah, and so a lot of these teams that ended up making the tournament, who might not be from necessarily big college division, who have a 13 or 14 seed, usually every single year are teams that pull up a big first round upset, Nate. So what I want to ask you is, based on the bracket that you filled out last night, are there any potential first round upsets that you see in the works?
Yeah, in the West region, I can see a couple of upsets happening. 6-seeded Houston is going to be take on 11-seeded San Diego State. And San Diego State has been playing really some of the best basketball in the country recently. They have won 9 in a row. They played their way into the NCAA tournament because, a month ago, they were a ship without a captain. They were struggling. They were trying to stay above water. But, Brian Dutcher, the coach of San Diego State, and really the seniors, particularly a shout-out to Trey Kell, because, as someone who's been watching SDSU basketball for pretty much my entire life, and seeing the development of Trey Kell over these last 4 years, been kind of waiting for him to turn it on, and on Saturday, he carried SDSU into the tournament. He had 27 points, and I think at one point he scored 12 straight points for the Aztecs in their conference tournament win over New Mexico. So they're playing great basketball, and that's a potential first-round upset that I could see. Another potential upset also in the West region is 5-seed Ohio State taking on 12-seed South Dakota State. Of course,
you Michigan fan. All right.
I know. It's, the Jackrabbits, it seems like every year they pull off an upset, and they are averaging almost 95 points a game, and in their last 12 games, they're 11-1. They're playing some really good basketball. And I could see that as a potential first-round upset. And I'm also going to say this. I think, I talked about Houston. I think all the 6 seeds should be on upset alert. I think I could see all the 11 seeds beating the 6 seeds in the first round.
That is a pretty hot take, if I do say so myself. So with upsets come upstart performances, and I think everyone has their certain players that they're going to be watching. Trae Young made the tournament kind of by the skin of his teeth there. Marvin Bagley, Miles Bridges, DeAndre Ayton, just to name a few players that everyone's going to be watching. We know the NCAA is going to be marketing the crap out of those guys throughout the whole tournament. But Nate, what I want to know from you is, are there some more under-the-radar players that could really carry their team into getting some pretty critical upsets, but also maybe making a deep run into the tournament?
Yeah, I think Colin Sexton from Alabama, you don't really think of Alabama as a basketball school, but, I mean, he like I was talking about, Trey Kell carried SDSU into the tournament. Colin Sexton, over the last week or so has just been absolutely tore it up in the SEC tournament. And just like SDSU, Alabama played their way into the NCAA tournament by beating the number 1 seed in the SEC tournament, Auburn. And I think Colin Sexton had 31 points in that game, and he has been absolutely playing tremendous lately. And I think that if they come up against a team that may have trouble guarding quick guards on the perimeter, that can be a problem. And I think that they're an 8 seed. They play number 9 seed North Carolina State. I might have that mixed up, but I think if they get to the second round, they could beat whoever the 1 seed is in that region. I don't know who it is off the top of my head. And then another player that I'm going to be definitely watching out for, and a little bias here, but I love him so much, is Mo Wagner, the big German for Michigan. He's a matchup problem for anyone because he's big, he's strong, but he can also step out and knock down a 3. And I mean, if you have a big man that can knock down 3s, that is a matchup nightmare for anyone. And I think he could definitely be a huge factor in Michigan potentially making a really long tournament run.
Yeah, definitely. So with those players in teams to watch, I want to know, Nate, do any of those teams make your Final Four? Are they able to make that deep of a run and secure a place in college basketball's most elite group?
Yeah, I actually do have Michigan as a 3 seed out west going to the Final Four. I have them beating 2 seed North Carolina in the Sweet 16, and then beating I believe it's Gonzaga in the Elite 8. And I you can call me biased or whatever, you can come at me with all your hate, but I really do think this Michigan team has been playing so well right now, and I could see them going to the Final Four. In fact, I have got them going to the Final Four. The other couple teams I got going in my Final Fours, I have from the South, I got Arizona. DeAndre Ayton is just on another planet right now. He's playing his best basketball this season. And I think that Arizona, they have a lot of NBA guys on their team. And I think that that's something that you can't overvalue at all, is the just having NBA guys who are ready to make that jump to the next level.
What I think is really interesting about Arizona is, I mean, they're in the center of all this controversy with the FBI investigation. They're investigating head coach Sean Miller for offering a certain freshman recruit $100,000 in order to go to the school. So, in your opinion, it seems like this is sort of going to light a fire under them and really just going to propel them through the tournament.
I was actually listening to Seth Greenberg on ESPN yesterday, watching ESPN's Bracketology, and he made that exact same point. And he said that these Arizona guys, they're just here to play basketball, and they couldn't care less about FBI investigations. They just want to play basketball, and I think that can be a motivating factor and say, hey, you know what, everyone's talking about us, let's just shut everyone up and win the national championship. Another team that I've got in my Final Four is Villanova, and honestly, I just think that they're in the easiest region. I don't see anyone in Villanova's region being able to beat them. And I've never been a huge believer in Villanova, but I think that their path to the Final Four, it's theirs to lose. And then finally, in the Midwest, I've got Michigan State. Any team that's got Miles Bridges, you cannot count out. And I think, I talk about Arizona having really the most NBA guys, but I think Michigan State is the most talented team in the country. And I could definitely see them getting to the Final Four.
Yeah, so potentially a Michigan State versus Michigan final.
That would,
maybe.
Yes, that would be amazing.
The entire state of Michigan would go up in flames.
Yes, it would.
That's really a heated rivalry. So my question for you, Nate, though, is there's a lot of teams that are in the tournament that have had incredible seasons. I think UVA is a notable school, number 1 in the country going into the tournament. Why not UVA? Why do you think they're not going to have what it takes to make the Final Four?
I do not trust UVA offensively. I understand that they've got one of the best defenses in the country. And also, offensively, this is one of the better offensive teams that Tony Bennett has had at UVA, but I do not trust them offensively to score enough points to be able to win games. Even with how good they are defensively, I do not trust them offensively.
Yeah, and then so if you also looking at the ACC, we have teams like Duke that they have had an amazing year, and yeah, so why not Duke also?
Well, last year I was drinking the Duke Kool-Aid and I picked them to win it all, and they lost in the second round. And I don't think they're as talented this year as they were last year. Yes, this year they've got maybe some more NBA guys on their team, but I think last year's team, the way that last year's team was playing in the tournament, they were playing absolutely tremendous, and they lost in the second round. And I think last year's team is better than this year's team, so I don't see Duke being able to. I've got Duke losing in the Sweet 16, I believe.
Okay, yeah. So you're kind of taking that middle ground. You're not going to take them losing in the second round in your bracket, but you're not going to take them all the way to the Final Four like you were predicting the other year.
Yeah.
And then also that begs the question. I feel like KU is always in the mix. Bill Self, they run a tight ship down there. They always do a fantastic job recruiting.
They just won their 14th straight Big 12 regular season championship.
And it's amazing because having been to Lawrence, Kansas, that's not the most desirable place to live, I would say. But I mean, why not KU? Why don't you think they're going to make the Final Four this year?
I just think that Michigan State's too talented for them, and I think. When they run into each other in the Elite Eight, I just think that Michigan State's going to take care of them. And it's nothing against. Kansas is a good team, but I do not think that they're one of the elite teams in college basketball.
Yeah, definitely. Well, seems like we did a pretty comprehensive overview on what the tournament's going to like. Who do you have winning it all?
I got Arizona. I got Arizona over Villanova in the championship, 72-65.
Wow, so that would, I think, be such a huge story.
Yeah,
in concerning all the FBI stuff going on. If Arizona is able to come through, they'd be partying down in Tucson like they always do.
Yeah, it would just
just a little harder.
A little bit harder.
Yeah, but definitely. But yeah, so it's gonna be really exciting. March Madness season. I got to fill out my bracket. I think this segment gave me a few pointers as to maybe what I should do, and hopefully it also helped you listening at home, maybe some helpful tips on how to fill out your bracket. So I think that's it from us in terms of March Madness. So when we come back, we're actually going to be giving you somewhat of a weekly soccer update. A lot has happened in the past week in terms of Champions League, notable Premier League matches, and we'll recap and look forward to other matches coming up. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Like what you're hearing? Well, I've got news for you. You no longer have to wait a whole week to hear from your favorite sports personalities. Hi, I'm Nate Wiggins, and Ben Friedel and I have got you covered. Give our show, The Unathletic, a sports podcast, a listen. We release new episodes every Monday and are committed to bringing you the best content. That's right, the very best content.